Howdy everyone, my name is Silver, and in this video I'll be going over the very basics of Restoration Druid. Druid is a class that's chock full of different utility abilities, and it can be very overwhelming when you pick it up for the first time. My goal in this video is to break the toolkit down to its very basics and help you understand how to use the different abilities. Keep in mind, this video's goal isn't to make you the very best that ever was. This is just a good place to start for beginners. I'll have some links in the description box below to some other content creators who can give you a much more in-depth look at how to play a Restoration Druid. But without further ado, let's go. I've broken up the Restoration Druid toolkit into three main categories: single target abilities, AoE abilities, and utility abilities. However, to start, it's helpful to understand what makes Restoration Druid unique. Resto Druids heal through healing over time, also called HOTS, as opposed to a healer like Resto Shaman who has a lot of direct, flat healing. Only a couple of your abilities will have a direct heal. Instead, you'll be placing buffs on your target that heal them over time. In in-game content, your focus is going to be managing these different HOTS and knowing when to use them. Because it is hard for druids to recover from heavy burst damage, it is important to know the fight mechanics so you can apply your HOTS before the damage gets too overwhelming. Keeping these abilities refreshed is important, but be careful not to overlap them too quickly. HOT management is an important key to getting the most out of your abilities. Try to time your spellcasts so that you're only refreshing your HOTS when they have less than 4 seconds left. This applies to the majority of your abilities, and it maximizes the amount of healing you can put out. Now that you know the idea behind Restoration Druid, let's start looking at your single target abilities. In this section we have Life Bloom, Rejuvenation, Regrowth, and Swift Mend. Life Bloom is your strongest HOT. Most of the time you'll want to keep this up on your tank. When you recast Life Bloom on the same target with less than 4.5 seconds left to the buff, it will proc a decently sized heal. For this reason, you should always be aiming to recast Life Bloom on your tank when the HOT has 4 or less seconds before it expires. Rejuvenation is a medium strength HOT. This ability has two main uses. You keep it on your tank along with Life Bloom to help offset steady damage, and you throw it on a DPS who needs some attention. This HOT does last for 15 seconds, so it's best to try and cast it on a party member before they start taking damage. Over time, you'll learn the fights and the mechanics, so you'll know exactly when to pre-cast Rejuvenation. Regrowth is a direct heal that costs more mana and leaves behind a HOT. The HOT from this one is weaker than Life Bloom and Rejuvenation, so it's mostly used when you need to get a quick heal on someone. The ability itself is pretty mana inefficient, however, each time your Life Bloom heals someone, there's a chance your next Regrowth cast will be free. Always use these free regrowths. The procs do not stack, so you'll be losing out on free healing and free mana if you wait too long. Don't do that. Our last single target heal is Swift Mend. This is an instant burst heal on a 15-second cooldown. It requires your target to have an active Regrowth, Rejuvenation, or Wild Growth buff, and Swift Mend will consume the weakest of those buffs to quickly burst heal your target. This is an emergency button, so use this when you think your target might die before your HOTS can heal them up to full. Next, we're looking at your AoE abilities. We've got Wild Growth, Efflorescence, and Tranquility. Wild Growth is a short cooldown that puts a HOT on up to 6 different people. It's a smart heal that prioritizes injured party members over healthy ones, so try to cast this on cooldown as often as possible. It's a great tool to keep your team healthy over the course of a fight. Efflorescence is a targeted ground AoE heal that heals 3 injured targets at a time. It's a big green circle you throw on the ground, it's instant cast, and it lasts for 30 seconds. Aim for 100% uptime on this one, and get used to moving it around on high mobility fights. You'll mostly be putting this under your tank in the melee group, but don't be afraid of putting it under a group of ranged if you think they're going to stay in it. Tranquility is a big 3-minute cooldown that heals all of your allies within 40 yards and it leaves behind a stacking hot. This is a big ability you want to save for specific points in the fight, or even as an emergency heal to recover from a mistake. Now onto the utility abilities. Like I said in the beginning of the video, druids are drowning in utility. I've picked out the 5 abilities that I think are the most useful to you as a healer, but by no means is this a complete list, I just had to pare it down. The abilities I want to highlight are Iron Bark, Rebirth, Nature's Cure, Nature's Swiftness, and Innervate. Iron Bark is a cooldown that decreases the amount of damage your target takes, while also increasing the healing that you provide them. Use this for certain mechanics or when someone is taking a large amount of damage. Rebirth is a resurrection ability that you can cast in combat. More often than not, you'll want to save this in case your tank or a fellow healer dies during the fight. If you are confident in the fight, however, you're welcome to use it on whoever you might have a crush on. Just remember, loot comes before crushes. Nature's Cure is your cleanse. As a druid, you can cleanse magic, curse, and poison debuffs on your targets. Sometimes you'll run across debuffs that you can't cleanse, and that's okay. You'll just have to heal through them. Nature's Swiftness is an ability that super boosts your next regrowth or rebirth to cast instantly. It will cost 0 mana, and it will double the effectiveness of regrowth's healing. This is great for emergencies. It also works on the ability Entangling Roots, but that's not an ability you need to worry about as a beginner. Innervate is a 3-minute cooldown that you can cast on yourself or on another party member. Innervate allows the target to cast spells without spending mana for 10 seconds. You can use this on yourself in dungeons, but in raids it's much better to use on other healers. When used on another person, your mana costs are reduced by 50% for the duration. Use this as often as possible to help your mana last longer. And that's all of your basic abilities. But Restoration Druids have one more important lesson to learn: their mastery. Mastery Harmony is a passive that increases the amount of healing you do on a target based on the amount of hots that they currently have active. For example, if you have 10% mastery, and you have both Life Bloom and Rejuvenation active on your tank, those 2 hots will be increased by 20%, 10% for each active hot. This is a very important passive to understand, as it will help you heal your targets much more quickly in scary situations. Thank you everyone for watching my video, and I hope you learned something new today. Again, my name is Silver. Go ahead and click that subscribe button to see more content like this. If you haven't followed me on Twitter, go ahead and do that as well. Let me know what kind of class videos you want to see in the future, and I hope you're all having an awesome time in Shadowlands. So long, everybody.